Hello and welcome back to Tay Radio Marin. I am your host, Javier Vicuna, and on today's show, I am here joined by my co-host,
Santi Hernandez.
and today we have a very special guest. We have Arthur Verduzco. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes, Verduzco.
And he is our opioid prevention. Well, actually, do you just want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, my name is Arthur Verduzco. I'm the Opioid Outreach Coordinator here at MCM, Multicultural Center of Marin, and I'm very excited to go into this presentation and interview on opioids.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here with us today, Arthur. I think it's a really important topic to talk about opioids, as it is, it's very prominent, especially here in Marin County, the issues that come with opioids. But before we kind of delve into it, I wanted to ask you both, what are you guys doing for Mother's Day this weekend? What are the Mother's Day plans looking like?
So for Latin America, a lot of Latin American countries, Mother's Day is actually today, May 10th. Every year, May 10th. My little brother was born on May 10th, so we are having a family gathering after the show. So
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's my Mother's Day plan.
So your brother kind of gets like
a big celebration.
like a Mother's Day celebration and his birthday celebration.
Yeah, I think maybe he won't like it when he grows older.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you want to separate the two, but
Right.
for all, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there and to the dads who are mom and dad at the same time.
Awesome.
Me with my family, I'll probably just be hanging out with my mom during the weekend.
Oh, great.
Got her gift yesterday, so
What'd you get her?
for it. I just got something from some like lotion and candles and different scented stuff like that I like. So
Always a good gift.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Looking forward to a great Mother's Day. And now I wanted to ask you guys, so I guess to start, Arthur, could you explain to Santi and I, what are opioids?
Yes, definitely. Opioids are a category of drugs. There's natural, prescription, synthetic, semi-synthetic, and illegal forms. Natural opioids are derived from the opioid poppy plant. So it's used as a pain reliever.
Okay, great. And what are some of the opioids that are out there? Like some names that you can attach to these opioids.
Yes, there is Oxycontin, Percocet, that's oxycodone, Vicodin, morphine, codeine, fentanyl, heroin, methadone.
Okay. And which one of those is the most common, like opioid, that most people seem to overdose on or have the biggest issues? At least here in Marin. Let's talk here specifically in Marin.
Yeah, definitely. There's a problem with fentanyl here in Marin County. So that's one of the stronger ones.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to be aware of, the dangers of it. So I'm here just to kind of ask questions and give people more information so that they stay educated on everything.
Great. So what is the fentanyl? What does it do exactly to the body?
Fentanyl is just a pain reliever. It's a lot stronger than the other ones. You could get it prescribed from your doctor, or sometimes they usually use it in medical settings as well.
Okay, gotcha.
So, whenever it's not prescribed to you, that's when it becomes dangerous. Whenever you're getting out on the street or from friends, definitely the only time that you should be taking prescription drugs is when it's prescribed to you.
Yeah. Okay. But there seems to be probably like a black market then of people selling fentanyl.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
That's how it's getting into vulnerable communities, right? Because that's where we're seeing a lot of these fentanyl overdoses happen.
Yes, definitely. There's also a lot of fake and counterfeit pills that are being marketed as something else, but then they're laced with fentanyl. So that's where a lot of the overdoses are coming from, as well as just misuse generally.
Gotcha. Did you want to add, Santi?
No, I wanted to just say that this is such a very, very important topic, and I want to say thank you, Arthur, for being here and sharing, because I've heard before of what was the drug that you mentioned?
Fentanyl?
Yeah, it's been thrown around in very different areas, and I never really understood what opioids are and how it's actually like in the medical world, it's used to help us relieve from pain. But when someone abuses opioids, it can lead to a very dark path. And because of the building where we are, it really has made me rethink about, you know, the work that we can do with sharing about drugs and opioids and how we can help those around us. I definitely want to hear from you with doing the work that you do. What are some misinformation that you hear from the youth or from people about opioids when you talk to them about, you know, everything that you share?
I think just generally a lot of people have misinformation or they're not fully educated on it. That's why my position at MCM is so important. It's important for the youth and adults to know of misuse and different things that could happen, like overdose or even potentially death. So
Yeah.
just being fully educated on everything and being able to make responsible decisions.
Can you explain a little bit about the amount that can lead to overdose? How much is that?
I know specifically for fentanyl, it's 2 milligrams.
Wow.
So it's really not that
Not
much.
that much.
Do you want to explain a little bit of what 2 milligrams in perspective looks like? I'm talking about the pencil, if you remember.
Yeah, definitely. So it's just enough to cover the tip of a pencil.
Wow.
So
That's tiny.
it's not too much.
And that can be, so I can see why it's an issue when people lace it, because people can like easily just spread it like that. Wow, that's really scary.
Yeah, and especially since it's in the illegal drug market.
Yeah.
Kind of in not regular, not like official labs. They're kind of just probably weighing it out wrong or not mixing it correctly, and that's whenever these overdoses eventually come out.
I see. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really, again, for me, that's really useful information to know, because I didn't even know that it was that small. Because whenever I think overdose, I think like it's a large amount that you take, right?
Yes.
But I guess in the case, every drug is different, right? But like in the case of fentanyl, it's only 2 milligrams, which is insane to me. But okay, so talking about fentanyl though, and talking about these opioids, what prevention can we now then do to avoid more people overdosing on these drugs?
One specific thing that I think about is fentanyl test strips.
Okay.
So that specifically only works with fentanyl. You could test any substance, whether it be pills or powder or anything like that, and then you just go through the kind of forensics exam, and then you could do it yourself. It's pretty easy. There's instructions to it. If the package doesn't have instructions, then you could just Google it, and then at that point, just kind of follow everything through. And what this is going to do, it's going to tell you if it's positive, if it's negative, or if it's invalid results. So positive, of course, is has fentanyl. Negative does not have it, and then invalid is kind of inconclusive.
So maybe just do it again.
Yes, I would definitely recommend you
Yeah.
do it again, and just make sure that you are following all the instructions and all that stuff as well. So
Can you explain a little bit about why they become very addictive, the opioids?
yes,
Because I think
definitely.
it's really interesting when we look at, again, as a reminder, opioids are there to relieve a pain from serious things, but then they do get addictive. So I wanted to hear. I want everyone to kind of hear on how that process it turns into an important thing into very addictive.
Yes, definitely. So opioids are a pain blocker. So what happens in your body or in your brain actually is they release a chemical called dopamine, and at that point, that's like a feel-good chemical in your brain. So it's going to make you feel in a good mood, kind of euphoria, things like that. So they're highly addicting and only provide short-term relief for pain and short-term euphoria as well. So after that, individuals are kind of chasing that high again to kind of make themselves feel better and kind of, yeah.
I also wanted to add that what happens and how someone can start using more and more is once you take something, your body kind of adapts in a way. And correct me if I'm wrong, Arthur. It kind of adapts in a way. So a dose that they gave you might be a lot a lot, but then your body kind of adapts to it, and then you need more and more and more and more. So eventually your body kind of the pain reliever doesn't work, meaning like you need a higher dose and a higher dose and a higher dose and a higher dose, which is why it can be really, really dangerous when someone is an addict and when they want to stop because of the usage. It can lead to a lot of overdose and even death.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's scary that that it can cause such a quick reaction too, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's okay if you guys don't know the answers to this, but my curiosity here is like, how is it so easy for people to even get access to this? Like the people that are selling this drug or giving this drug to people, how are they getting it in the first place? If pharmacies are the only ones that should, technically have access to that drug, right?
Yeah, correct. I think the first thing that I would think of is sometimes individuals go into a hospital and say that they have some sort of pain and then get something prescribed to them, or they have a surgery and then they get something prescribed to them and then they start using it, they start liking it, and they start looking for it in outside sources, whether it be from friends or family or in the illegal market. So definitely whenever someone has an addiction, they get very creative with how they're going to get their next dose.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that. And then could you also talk about what you have here with us? It seems like you brought some Narcan. So could you explain to us what Narcan is?
Yes, definitely. It's just a medication that's used to reverse an opioid overdose. So it only works with opioids. It's not going to help out with a different type of drug category overdose.
Okay, actually, so before we even delve into that, what are the other drug categories that are out there other than opioids?
I would say, off the top of my head, methamphetamine,
Okay, so that okay.
cocaine, different types of other benzos.
Is
and
heroin an opioid?
Yes, it is.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's one of the illegal forms.
Gotcha. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. But again, also just wanted to hear more about. Okay, so again, Narcan. So
Yes, definitely. Like I mentioned, it's just a medication that's used to reverse opioids, and it's administered through the nose, and it's just a spray. It also comes in a syringe as well that you could inject,
yeah.
and there's different ways to administer just based on preference and what you have available at that time. So, yeah.
Okay. And could you show us a demonstration of the? I guess this is the one for the nose.
Yes, these are just demonstration devices. So if you look at it, this is the shape of it. It has a plunger on the bottom. So the way that you would hold it is with these two fingers. Hold it on top and just use a plunger all the way down. Whenever you... Just one moment.
Yeah. So it comes in like a little packaging here. And okay. Gotcha. So you open the package and it's 4 milligrams.
Yes, each one is 4 milligrams. So you just basically break this open, and at that point, you have to check for if the person is conscious or not. If they're non-responsive, then at that point, you would call 911 and then move forward to administering it. So another important thing is that whenever you call 911, you should try to do that on speakerphone, just to make sure that both of your hands are available to administer the product.
Gotcha. All right, that makes sense. So okay, so with this said, then, is it okay? So let's say like the first nasal, like you do the nasal spray, right? The Narcan nasal spray once, and let's say that the person doesn't react. It's not okay to do another dose of it.
You cannot overdose on Narcan.
Okay.
So I've heard of EMS or emergency medical services having to do several of them.
Oh, really?
You do it up one nostril, and then if it doesn't work, you wait 2 or 3 minutes, and then at that point you would move forward to use another one on them.
Gotcha.
Until emergency services get there.
All right, interesting. And okay, and then so where can people get Narcan?
You could honestly get Narcan everywhere. I've seen it online. It's actually an over-the-counter medication now, so you could get it at your local drugstore, or I've even seen it on Amazon.
Yeah.
So that way, in those ways it's going to cost you. You could actually get it for free here at Multicultural Center of Marin.
Perfect.
And it's at no cost. We also provide fentanyl test strips here for free. So anyone that is interested, of course, they would be more than welcome to come to Multicultural Center of Marin and be able to get that for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you. And then they can reach out to you, Arthur, directly.
Yes.
Do you have a direct number that people can reach you at?
Yes. I feel like if I should know my work now, but just 1 second.
It's all right. It's all right. While you're doing that, I think it's just great that here at the Multicultural Center we're able to, give people the option of coming here and getting Narcan, because I think, again, ways to prevent overdoses like this is super important, and it's good to have it be accessible for people. Because again, I also heard that there's like fridges or something where people can, like, not fridges, but like little. Like
vending machine.
No, vending machine, yeah,
Yes.
fridges. No, vending machine, yeah, vending machine where people can go and get Narcan as well.
Yes, definitely. There's definitely vending machines around the local area here in Marin County. All that you would have to do is Google it, and it will show you the closest location to you. So at that point, you would just go over there and grab some, or you could come here to MCM and grab some as well.
Perfect.
I did pull up my phone number. So it is 415-726-9176. So if anyone is interested, they could give me a call or send me a text message, or just come to the Multicultural Center of Marin, and that is at 709 Fifth Avenue in San Rafael.
Great. And could you just repeat the phone number one more time?
Yes, it is 415-726-9176.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Arthur, for that. So you mentioned another opioid prevention thing that you can use. So there's the Narcan nasal spray, but then there's also, you said, like a shot or something like that.
Yes. I'm not sure how accessible that is. I feel like if it's really easy to get the nasal spray just because it's more convenient, and some people might struggle with injection sites and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's definitely able to get it that way as well.
Okay. Have you used the shot before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
A long time ago, I did get Narcan from a different organization that I worked at, and it was the syringe type. And I never had to use it or open it. So.
It seems like the nasal spray is definitely a lot easier, and
Yes.
definitely like a lot more, again, just easier to access. And people will feel a bit more comfortable, I would say, using a nasal spray than
Yes,
putting like a needle on someone. So great.
I don't know if you cover this, but did you cover, the limit on Narcan so you can give on someone?
Yeah, we just talked
You
about
did?
it.
Oh,
He
okay.
mentioned that it's like basically as much you can't overdose on Narcan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Because that's something common that was brought up, and it's if it's a one-time thing, and I learned that it's not, that you can use it as much as the person needs until
Yes.
the emergency arrives.
Yes, every 2 to 3 minutes until emergency services arrive. So, of course, if you are giving someone massive amounts of it, I'm sure they're not going to feel well, but you cannot overdose on it.
great. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna mention. So okay, with Narcan and nasal spray. What other let's say, so when you're administering the Narcan on someone, do they have to be laying down, like in a certain position, or?
Yes, definitely. First, you're going to check for the responsiveness,
Okay.
and then if they're not responding, 911. And then next, you're going to lay them down and then tilt their head back, 'cause that's going to open up the airways.
I'll tilt the head back.
And
Okay,
then you're going to grab the Narcan and put it up to their nose until these fingers, your 2 fingers, are touching their nostrils.
Yeah.
At that point, you use a plunger. You do it all the way in. Don't do it halfway. There's only one spray in there.
Yeah.
So if you do it halfway, it might kind of come out wrong. So just make sure that you put some pressure on it and push it all the way down. It's pretty easy to push. And then at that point, you would wait 2 or 3 minutes and then wait for a response. If they don't respond, then at that point you would move to the next nostril and just rotate until emergency services get there.
And when you have one of those and you carry them, is there specific instruction on how to keep them from? Do they go bad? Do they expire?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes, definitely.
Because, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I told my mom to keep one in her car.
Yeah.
I was like, keep one in her car. But then I thought, and I was like, wait, in the car it gets
Really hot.
really hot.
Yeah.
So then I don't know if you know how to take care of that. So anyway, that's a question that I have.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking at the package right now. So it definitely assisted me with some information. It says to store at below 77 degrees and not to permit it from being at above 104 Fahrenheit.
So don't keep it in your car.
Yeah. So don't keep it in your car.
Definitely do not freeze or expose to excessive heat. So definitely that's something to
It
keep in mind.
sucks because I think like, for example, it's kind of hard to like carry something like that or in your bag like every day. So I see why people would just want to put that in their car because it's like easier to access, right?
Yes.
But at least it's good to know to not do that.
Yes, definitely. One thing that I can recommend is just breaking it out of the box, and then it's a lot smaller to,
Oh yeah.
I guess, throw in your bag
Oh
or
yeah, that's like, can I see it? It's like, to comparison, it's like way smaller.
Like half the size of a
Yeah.
iPhone over there. Like half the size of an iPhone.
I don't know if
so-
Jesse got that.
yeah.
back.
But yeah, for
Yeah,
size comparison, it's
not
pretty
that-
small.
I mean,
It's
it fits
pretty
in my
small.
backpack and all, so.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you. Oh, one other thing I wanted to touch on. So let's say you do go and help someone, right? I know that there's a law for this
Oh,
for
thank you for
CPR
bringing this up.
for CPR. But if you were to do that, is there any legal trouble you can get into if you were to help someone out during an overdose or like
there is something called the Good Samaritan law.
Good Samaritan law? Yeah.
So it's basically any time that you have goodwill to assist someone, and if something goes wrong, you can't be held liable. So it's definitely a law in that we could go by and just have like that kind of sense of relief that we're not going to be held liable as long as we had good intentions.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I asked you this question before, which I think you know, which it was crazy. It was, in a way, it's kind of crazy because my mom asked me this question, and I went and asked you, and I said, "What happens if that person wants to die, and you are trying to help them, and they don't want to?" And I asked you, like, what do you do then, right? And I loved your answer, and it's giving them. I think it's kind of hard. Well, I don't remember. You want to touch on this? When I asked you this question, I was like, "What do you do?" Because it's a tricky situation.
If someone's responding to you, that means that they are responsive. So the only time that you should administer it is if someone's nonverbal and non-responsive, and basically the signs of an overdose. So
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Thank you for answering that question.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I did also wanted to ask. So, okay, with the opioids. So, how can people get into? Can people contact you to do trainings? Because it seems like you do trainings at schools, right?
Yes, definitely. We do trainings for staff, for different organizations, at schools. I could do them at clinics, just anywhere that the need is. A lot of my target population is youth, but anyone, I'm more than willing to do trainings for them and help them out. So I could do a Narcan training, fentanyl test strip training, opioid education, just like an intro, also one on stigmas, as well as opioid misuse.
Gotcha. Perfect.
And these, I've gone with Arthur to do a couple of these presentations, and it's really important because a lot of the youth have heard about opioids and heard about fentanyl. But when you ask them these questions, do you know how much you need to get an overdose? A lot of them assume that there's you need a huge amount when it's
Right.
like very, very small.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
So props to Arthur for doing those presentations. And to anyone who's listening, this is really, really important because in Marin County right now, we're having a lot of deaths due to fentanyl use, and it's really unfortunate. So the best way we can prevent more of those deaths from happening is to spread awareness of what they are, what we can do to help those around us. So yeah, thank you, Arthur, for those presentations, because those youth, it's really important to share that with the youth.
And speaking of all the overdoses that have been going on here in Marin, do you know the data as in like which people are more vulnerable to overdoses?
Yes, definitely. Well, specifically for demographics, no, but I know that in Marin County, it's the leading cause of death for individuals under 55 years old.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's
So
definitely
a
something
lot of
that's
young people
happening.
have been dying because of
Um,
fentanyl.
I don't know specifically, but just as a whole in Marin County, those are
Under,
that's the
yeah.
information, but
Okay.
I don't know specific like
Yeah, yeah,
age
yeah.
groups or demographics.
Gotcha. Well, I think it could be fairly just speculation.
Hmm.
I think it would be fairly common to see that, unfortunately, because of how easy it is to lace other things
Hmm.
with fentanyl. So that's scary. And again, I'm glad that you're doing the work to help prevent that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I want to share a personal story, and my mom knows this story of mine when I was in high school. I had a very, very good friend of mine who, who I knew was in, smoking weed, but during high school after lunch, we would go to the mall, we would try to get food. And I remember one time where she brought her friends and they had a little Ziploc bag, which looked like little mints. And they were like, they were all kind of grabbing one, and they said, "Do you want one?" And I asked what it was, and they were like, "Oh, it's just gonna make you a little bit feeling this way," and I automatically said no.
Yeah.
And I,
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
and I can definitely see how easy it is to be fooled by our friends around us. So I would just want to say to the youth, it's okay to say no. Even I remember
Yeah, don't be
that
peer pressured because
I
it's
remember
easy to
that.
fall into peer
I
pressure.
remember that day, and I said no. I automatically said I don't. Go ahead, you do your thing, but I can't. And I got to share that with my mom because he said that's something that happened to me. And it really just brought me into perspective of, if you have friends that are taking a different path, don't feel pressured to take that path. And if they're forcing you to say, hey, you have to take this, or we won't be friends, or you're not cool, it's okay for you not to be cool in front of them, rather than you getting addicted to something that is really, it's a dark path. It's really hard to get off. I do want to, if you're okay, kind of transition and kind of talk more about what are signs that someone who is was prescribed with the opioids is starting to become addictive to that, and as a friend or a loved one, how can we kind of see those signs and kind of stop the addiction from going further?
Yes, definitely. It's called opioid dependency. It's greater risk of constant and increased use of opioids. That could include social problems, just with friends or family, also risky use, using more and more. So that's another thing. Also, you could have relationship problems. Your tolerance is going to increase as well as your dependency. You could have withdrawal symptoms as well as failure to fulfill major responsibilities at work, school, or at home.
Well, yeah.
And a combination of these behaviors could be diagnosed as something called opioid use disorder. So,
Oh, so it's basically like addiction. I mean,
yes.
those are all signs that come with addiction, and that's scary because I also have known a lot of friends that unfortunately, what ends up happening is that like they start with weed, and then from weed they go into harder drugs. 'Cause it's like a gateway drug. That's what weed is. Especially in high school, you know what I mean? When people are more vulnerable. Because I've seen a lot of people that I know just unfortunately go into weed and then just start trying out harder stuff as they grow more addicted to drugs in general. So, yeah, it's really sad, but thank you for sharing those symptoms. And again, like try to show as much support as you can to those friends and reach out. Sometimes it helps to just like let them know their reality. Because I think once someone is kind of really like dove deep into this lifestyle, it's kind of hard for them to kind of understand where they're what they're doing is harming them, right? So I still check in on some of my friends who unfortunately are doing quite a bit of drugs, and they're usually saying like they're all right and stuff, and that they're doing okay, but I'm just always kind of making sure that they're still alive, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've been doing that. Also, a lot of them just don't live in this area anymore, so I can't really like check in person on how they're doing. But I do. I mean, I care about these people either way. So, always just good to look and make sure that your friends are doing all right. And I definitely want to continue this conversation. But I actually want us to take a quick break. We're gonna go ahead and play a song by Ismael Lara, Evolving Wings, called Soul Purpose, and we will be right back.
Yeah. Evolving Wings. Yeah. I'm a genius, original purpose, resurrect like the phoenix. From the mother lotus emerges, no longer feel wordless. To be a service to purpose, it's evolving wings por vida. Got them all like Nita, eternal play in the brain, got me insane. Explain the pain, your seat's pain. My soul wounded, some moves can't be computed. God's great shadows meet the darkest alley. Demons came for me, but archangels parried. Swiss swings shut the souls rapidly. Call it horror meets fantasy. Lower energies move like cavities. Sucker MCs, no substance. Ignore the earth's cry. Sucker MCs, no substance. Don't realize we never die. Misguided by subsidized lies. I'm guided by my ancestors' war cries. Borga floor spitting truth, encouraging your spine. Evolving wings manifesting your divine. Don't give up, fly. Compassionate can't pay my soul purpose. Wings up, wings up, wings up, wings up. Compassionate can't pay my soul purpose. Wings up, wings up, wings up, wings up. Compassionate can't pay my soul purpose. Wings up, wings up, wings up. Compassionate can't pay my soul purpose. Wings up, wings up.
Fui bendecido por los grandes que fincan cuatro paredes. No pudieron descifrar esta trivia. No compartieron visiones que nos preceden. Las ansias les arrebatan el alma que nos conmueve. Son solo números, dígitos y algoritmos. Ínfimos, tan superfluos, minúsculos, poco críticos. Son la vergüenza de soles que se asimilan, se opacan, bajan la cara, cambiando la narrativa. Es la miseria del mapa mundo moderno, queriendo cortar mis alas, mi cuento, regreso eterno.
Welcome back. That was Ismael, Evolving Wings. I always get that confused.
It's all right.
Shout out to him. I think he's doing his...
He came out with a new music video recently, actually.
So thank you so much for letting us use your music to be part of our show. With that, our announcements, our open mic is every last Friday of the month. And this
month it's going to be on May 31st. Friday, May 31st.
As a reminder, doors open at 6 p.m. and depending on if the artists show up on time, we can start around 6:30 or sooner. Anyone is welcome to come and sign up. And then we do have our healing circle as well. I will be putting the link to more information on that for anyone who... It is May Mental Health Month, so if you are going through something, I highly recommend you guys joining the healing circle, which is run by Karina, who's an awesome person.
Yeah,
you can come and just help yourself. And yeah, I think those are all the announcements that we have for today.
Yeah, and the healing circle will be on Thursday, May 16th.
Thank you. I didn't know the date.
Yeah, it's okay. Thursday, May 16th from 6. It starts at 6.
Yeah, I think it starts at 6.
Yeah, here at MCM, at Multicultural Center.
So all of the events I said, it's all at the Multicultural Center Marin, which is 709 5th Avenue, Centerville. But yeah, we're going to get back into our conversation. I don't know if we covered this already. And before we start talking a little bit more about how to help our loved ones and all of that, I want to know a little bit more about what are the risk and potential side effects associated with opioid use. So if someone does take and is addicted to it, what are and they recover from it, what are some potential
long-term,
short-term effects that they have?
Yeah, definitely. Habitual opioid use can increase tolerance, so you'll need higher amounts and more frequent use of opioids to have the same effect on the body. Our bodies become physically dependent on opioids, like I
Yeah.
mentioned before. When opioid use is reduced or stopped, these people experience withdrawal symptoms. This could cause a vicious cycle of trying to stop using it, experiencing withdrawals, and the use of opioids again to reduce those symptoms. This is why overcoming dependency is definitely something that is very difficult, and you should not do without professional assistance.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah. So with the what's been going on right now? I mean, I've also seen a lot of people who have recovered. They also tend to like have scratches on their skin, or they seem to like scab a lot. But I know it's possible because I've seen a lot of great example stories of people who were once really addicted, and then you see them like 2 years after like being sober, basically, right, from these drugs, and they look great. You know what I mean? So it's definitely possible, but it's hard. It's hard. So do you know any resources in Marin where people can take like people who again are having issues with opioids and they want to help them get better?
Yes, definitely. I would say the first thing that you should do is go see your PCP, your doctor, or a clinician to kind of figure out what your options are and if you're ready to seek treatment. A lot of times individuals say that they want to, and then once it's time to go in there, then definitely it's a different story.
Yeah.
There are treatment options here in Marin. There's Marin Treatment Center, and that's in San Rafael. Also, Marin City Health and Wellness. Also, what they're basically going to do for you is they're going to use MAT, which is medication assisted treatment. This is going to be medications that are used to reduce the kind of signs and symptoms and withdrawals. It's not going to make you feel perfect, but it's definitely going to reduce those and kind of help you ease your way into recovery.
Gotcha.
Something that I learned when giving the presentations with you, it's the part where you said that when you are trying to get off opioids, it's not an automatic. It's very dangerous to automatically just stop taking them. But there's a process that you go from the amount that they give you, right? Am I correct on that? They give you certain amounts to build up to, and then they have to slowly do the same thing backwards. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. There could be different types of medications that are used. So it just depends on which substance you're using and then what works best for you. Your doctor might try one way and then also try something later if that's not working well. So definitely they're there to assist you. And yeah, there's definitely help out there and treatment. So it's great to know those resources and treatment centers and medical facilities that are out there to help you here in Marin.
Yeah. So the reason why I brought that up is because automatically when we assume a lot that if someone just automatically stops taking drugs, like, oh, they'll be fine and stuff.
Yeah, it's not that easy. It's not that simple.
Which is why I was like, I didn't even know that there's certain process that goes to it, and depending on case by case. I do want to ask, how do cultural attitudes or like beliefs, stigmas surround opioid use impact individuals who are seeking help for addiction? In I'll give you an example from my personal life, because I do have family members who are unfortunately are in like drug use or alcohol abuse, and a lot of our family is very divided, and one of them, it's like, oh, they just want to be like that, and it's their fault, blah blah blah.
They'd rather blame than help. Yeah.
And then there's another side, and being in the work field that I am, I've learned so much about what addiction is, and so I just wanted to hear more on your end. What are those perspectives that cultures have that impact those who are seeking for help?
Yeah, definitely. Cultural attitudes is something that exists. So there's also language that impacts stigmas. Negative language can devalue, dehumanize, and be dismissive. Unfair stereotypes or believed we believe can excuse me, sorry. We believe can be spread and hurt others and increase those negative stigmas. Um, they could use that as an excuse to not care afterwards and kind of seclude themselves, take a couple steps back, and kind of be more introverted. So it really depends on the person. I think that the best thing that you could do is just educate them, give them resources, reach out to their clinician or doctor, and move forward with treatment.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think especially in the Latino community, there's just so much, like you were saying, like there's just so many people who just tend to just tell people, oh yeah, they're just like that, or they don't want to get help, so we're not going to help them, blah blah blah. But it's like it's just the effort isn't put in by them, and I think that's something that definitely needs to change, and I am seeing more change of that, especially in the younger generation, with helping people out, because alcohol, again, it's not an opioid, right? Alcohol isn't an opioid,
No.
but it's a drug. And like,
I brought it up because of the addiction part. That once you understand a little bit more about like what an addict goes through, it's a lot more. Well, at least for me, it's been a lot more easier to be to understand them a lot more. I think we have this thing where we want to blame them and say, oh, you are just not trying hard enough. But at the end of the day, I've realized that once you are an addict, the chemical part of it is really interesting how it works, which is why it's really hard for people to get clean. Because your body starts, you kind of get, from my understanding, is you kind of start losing control of your own body. Your own body starts to demand, and that, you know, you get
the drug
anxious.
controls you more than you control the drug.
Exactly. And once I understood that, I really understood a lot more about how to be more mindful and care for those around me, you know, and that.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. There's mental mental dependency as well as physical dependency. So it kind of consumes your whole body and then changes your way of thinking. Things that you used to enjoy, you no longer enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's just you got that tunnel vision for your next dose and next high.
And what I was curious about, Arthur, was I wanted to ask you what got you into this kind of work, and what makes you like want to do this work?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if anything in public health, it interests me. So this falls into that category.
Did you go to school for public health?
No, I went to school for healthcare administration, but I definitely feel like if I should have did public health, most of my experience is with that and nonprofits and things like that. So I fully support them. I feel like it's very important to just kind of be educated on everything, spread awareness, and be able to assist people in the process. So I'm definitely here to assist anyone that's in need. If anyone needs treatment, any type of information, don't hesitate to reach out at all.
I see. Yeah, well, that's good. And then go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, just to add on. So you're, because you're also not from Marin, right? So looking at, and you're from the East Bay.
Yes.
So in the East Bay, do you see these types of issues with fentanyl as well? Not just Marin?
Yes, definitely. I've had to work in different counties. I feel like if Alameda County as well as San Francisco County have really high rates as well.
It's all over the Bay Area, basically.
Depending on the neighborhoods that you go to. If you go to San Francisco, the Tenderloin area is very impacted by drug use out in the open. It's kind of like a culture shock the first time I went there and kind of walked down that street or that neighborhood. So definitely the best thing that you could do is just let people know that there's help out there and that they're not alone. So
great. You wanted to add, Santi?
Yeah, so I've been working with Arthur for a couple
the author of Arthur.
Our vocab is not coming out right today. I've been working with Arthur for a few of the presentations. You know, I had a hand injury, so I wasn't doing a lot of designing and had to do some outreach to support. And this work has taught me a lot. I think we also did a presentation for newcomers in Spanish, and it was, again, from them coming here. It's a whole different world, and and to showing them and giving them information about opioids. to me, it takes a huge responsibility off my back, saying, you know, I know that I gave them information, and now it's up to them how they want to use that info to protect themselves, to protect others around them. But it's such an important piece of work, because if you see around here, we're getting a lot more, especially in our building. There's a lot of people here who walk around, and you can see that they're using, and it's really hard for me as a person. You know, I live the life that I have, and I see these people struggling. So this is kind of my way of preventing from more of that happening. So it's been really awesome to work with Arthur.
And, you know, for the newcomers, that's really cool that you also do presentations for the newcomers. What were some of the questions that they had?
I feel like if a lot of them didn't even know what an opioid was.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
I'm not really sure how it is in where they're from specifically, but definitely here, especially in this area, it has been highly impacted by fentanyl and opioids and different types of drugs as well.
I think also something that came up and from the presentation we did was also the understanding of, is it okay for me to help and not get in trouble? Mm-hmm. That part of the, what was it, the law that you said?
Good Samaritan law.
Yeah, that was really hard for them to understand, because they were like, what if, again, same thing came up, what if they want to die? And I'm trying to help them and I get in trouble for it. Is there anything that backs me up? So
being a newcomer.
Yeah. So those were things that were brought up.
A good question.
And then also the understanding of like how little you need to get an overdose. So those were some questions that were brought up. But yeah, Arthur has done an amazing job doing presentations in Spanish. Again, the addiction does not choose a certain race or gender. It can be anyone, which is why if we could speak all of the languages, I would translate everything in each one, because it's so important.
Right.
But it's been awesome to also work with our newcomers or non-English speaking students to understand more. And again, the main thing we're trying to do is prevent from others to go down that
in
path.
Every community.
Yeah, in every
single community.
Absolutely. Because again, it doesn't choose a certain
race,
demographic.
gender, color,
Yeah, it's
any
just
of that.
it's anyone. So yeah,
that's good. Yeah, no, and I totally agree, and I think it's a reasonable question to ask. Like, hey, especially for a newcomer, like to get into any legal trouble. From my understanding, I know that in San Rafael, at least, if you get arrested and you're undocumented, they actually don't deport you anymore. That's what I heard. Because I know that was a big issue way back then here in San Rafael. Mm-hmm. But from what my understanding and what I've understood is that they can't do that anymore. So, I just wanted to mention that because I think that's a big point.
Yeah, and you asked something earlier, and so I wanted to search it up a little bit on the data of like overdose in Marin County. So you can go to skylab.cdph.ca.gov, and it kind of gives you the California data of overdose in California. But you can actually go by county, and
really?
If this is wrong, know that it's from their website.
Okay.
But this is what it says, that this is all in 2022, so like 2 years ago. So there were 39 deaths related to an opioid overdose in Marin County, and that's 15.8% out of 100,000. Is that how many people live here? 100,000 residents. 67 ED visits related to an opioid overdose. 18 hospitalizations related to an opioid overdose in Marin County. 96,393 prescriptions for opioids in Marin County.
Wow.
So that's again,
those are big numbers.
And again, that is all based in
2022,
23. And that numbers are going up more and more. If you guys want to get more info on that, I definitely would do a little bit more research. Mm-hmm. But again, it's happening here, and we can see it as well.
Yeah, it's present everywhere. But Arthur, I wanted to ask, so ultimately with the work you've been doing, what's what's kind of one thing that you've learned that, because it seems like this isn't your first time working with opioids, right? Here at MCM, or it is your first time working with opioids?
Specifically just with opioids, this is my first position, but before I was helping kind of vulnerable communities in San Francisco and Alameda, as well as San Jose area.
And what was that kind of work exactly?
It was for enhanced care management. So we would just go out and help complex care patients kind of get back on their health action plan, as well as just kind of assist them with anything that's going on. If substance use was something that they were struggling with, then of course that was I'd give them resources and treatment referrals and just educate and spread awareness as well.
Right. Have you had to use Narcan here in San Rafael? Well, you've...
I have not, but definitely I'm a lot more confident on using it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something scary or, I mean, I'm sure you'd be nervous, but definitely as long as you read the instructions on the package and kind of walk through it, then definitely it's a lot easier. And once you call 911, if you're having issues, they'll walk you through it as well.
Yeah. That makes sense. I was just curious because, yeah, I mean, you've been in this role for almost a year. No, 6 months.
6 months.
6 months, a half a year. But still, it's been going by quick. And, you know, in these 6 months that you've been doing this kind of work, what's been the most surprising thing that you have learned about, again, the opioids and Narcan, all of it? Like, is there something that really stuck out to you that you were like, dang, I didn't really think it was that big or of an issue or something? You know what I mean?
I would say probably the amount that it takes of fentanyl for someone to overdose, just the 2 milligrams, and it's almost nothing. It just looks like a couple little crumbs. So it's definitely really strong and dangerous. So everyone just needs to be aware if they are using, then definitely they should be testing substances with fentanyl test strips.
And I think you mentioned this before, but what's the main medical use for fentanyl? Like, what's it medically supposed to help do?
All opioids are used for pain relief. So,
Okay, so if someone like broke their arm or something, or...
yeah, definitely. It just depends on the clinician and what they prescribe. I've heard of it being used a lot for surgeries. So if someone's having a medical procedure, it's definitely something that's given to them for pain, since
gotcha.
it's so strong. And of course, in a hospital or medical facility, you have trained clinicians and nurses and things that...
It's a controlled environment.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so you shouldn't worry about getting addicted to it then, right?
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, it's safe, and at that point, it's being used in a controlled environment, like you mentioned.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure about that because, again, I think that's just kind of the scary part about drugs in general is that, like, yeah, like these same drugs that are killing people are also being given out by doctors themselves. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
And it just sucks that it seems like the black market has kind of screwed up the kind of way that people take these drugs and just use them against like what they're actually supposed to be used for. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was going to mention, I learned when I was doing a little bit more research about, opioids and all that, I learned that, when a woman is giving birth, the epidural that they get in the back, that's a combination of certain ingredients, but it also has opioid in its fentanyl that they use for women when they're giving birth. So there are like medical uses that they use it for, and for those who have given birth, which I have not, I've heard it's very painful. So they use that to kind of reduce the pain for women. So it's kind of a tricky thing, like you mentioned, because you think, okay, I don't ever want to get that, but it's put in certain medical situations where it's very helpful. I think the abusing it is where it gets a little bit more tricky.
Correct. Yes. I've also heard of it being used, of course, for surgeries, like I mentioned, and also for abortions.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure.
So many use cases for it.
Yes, definitely. So you should definitely feel safe when you're using it with your doctor and medical professionals and clinicians.
And then another quick question I had here. So this fentanyl or these opioids, do they have a certain color to them, or like a certain way for people to like distinguish them? Because that's kind of my question too in the back of my head is how do people like distinguish?
They look so alike with the replicas.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm gonna just because I remembered right at the top of my head one place like you can kind of get info, then they do comparisons. I think it's OD Free Marin, where if you follow their social media, I've seen a couple of their videos where they're actually asking teenagers like, can you I don't know, I don't think it's just teenagers in general, but they're asking like, can you identify which one's the original and not the original, and people can't because it's really slightly different. So I would say go to OD Free Marin's IG because they have some really cool like skits that they've done to show kind of who you can see when you're comparing the pills. But I'm gonna hand off the rest to Arthur.
Yeah, definitely. They're in the legal drug market. They're kind of their own subject matter expert in this process. Some of them I'm sure look a little bit off or not exactly the same, but to the regular person that's just expecting that type of drug then or pill, then they really can't distinguish it. Another thing about fentanyl is it's so important to use fentanyl test strips because this is one of the things that surprised me a lot. Fentanyl you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. It's odorless, so definitely you don't know whenever something is laced or cut with something. So
Yeah, it's just scary. I mean, just don't buy drugs off of someone on the street. I mean, that's just the biggest piece of advice there. Or just don't do drugs in general. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just so unsafe to do stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of youth who, unfortunately, that's the only way. They want to be cool or they want to bring drugs to a party or something. But like, you have to like double think about it here because like if you buy like some weed off of some guy on the street and then bring that to a party and then you end up finding out that it was all laced with fentanyl or something, then you could potentially kill a whole bunch of people without even knowing it.
Yes.
Which is super duper scary. And again, I just do not condone any of that. I don't condone drugs, and I definitely do not condone buying drugs from a dealer or someone outside in the street because it could lead to this, like we've been talking about. Like this fentanyl has been the number one overdose substance here in Marin. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Just kind of for someone who has a loved one who's addicted to opioids, what are things that they can do to support them? And yeah.
Okay, so if an individual, they could be supported by just having individuals that are open and honest with them, just having great communication skills, build a relationship with them where you guys just tell each other everything. I would encourage parents to open up and have that type of relationship with their children where they could actually communicate with them and be honest with them 100%, whether it's positive, whether it's negative. I feel like if that's the best thing that I could recommend to everyone.
Yeah.
If there's a disconnection between you, parents and their kids, I feel like if something goes wrong, like the kid might try to hide it from them or go to the room and hide if they're not feeling well and things like that. So it's definitely good to just have empathy for these individuals because it is a clinical diagnosis of addiction. So,
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, Arthur. We're close to the end of the show here, but I want to ask the both of you, do you guys have any other last thoughts here that you wanted to share with the audience before we end it here?
Sure. I just want to remind everyone that we do have an open supply of Narcan here, as well as fentanyl test strips.
At the Multicultural Center?
Yes, at Multicultural Center of Marin. There's also different resources out there like OD Free Marin, and they also have those things as well. So you could just Google it, go out to vending machines. It's always good to have Narcan on you. A lot of individuals think that overdoses don't happen, and they honestly do. So you're not going to know if you need it until you actually need it. So It's always good to have that supply on you. Yeah. But Santi, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the youth, again, if you are in any type of drug, just do a little bit more research on to care for your loved ones. It's really hard to understand. We want to blame someone right away, but just understanding where they come from is really important for our process and for their process as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Arthur, for the work that you're doing. Thank you, Santi, for supporting him in the work. I think that's all great. And I learned a lot today. So thank you both. And hope everyone else listening learned something today. And thank you. So we'll catch you all next week. And this is Tay Radio Marin. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.